Good afternoon, guys. Beautiful, crisp fall day here. Take a look at these unsnow-covered mountains because you're not going to see this for long. I'll tell you, when the moisture comes here in the mountains, it's going to snow here shortly.
Absolutely. It's only about 40 degrees right now, so I am predicting snow in the next few days.
I think you're probably right. But anyway, what did you want to touch base on today, my dear?
I read this article today. Like you, I get hundreds of emails, and the topic on this one struck me, so I wanted to read it. It was about keeping the spark within your marriage, and the article didn't really hit hard on that topic. It hit more on some other topics about keeping the peace, or
watch your step
keeping things moving along in a marriage. And it was really disturbing to me because, first of all, the first author that was quoted had been married almost 8 years. So, that's a long time.
It's a good chunk of time.
Chunk of time. And maybe an expert, maybe not. And her advice was to make sure that you have, your own individual lives. And, but to also do something together. But make sure that what you do together is something you can both afford, because you both might have different incomes. Well, that just blew me away. Honestly, if you're getting married, it's uniting everything. It means merging everything together.
I'm confused. So they're married, but they keep their funds apart?
Exactly. And so one of them makes more than the other. And so she's saying that, that's kind of a common thing. This is according to her. And that, so that couples don't have an argument over being able to do things they can both afford, that, they make sure they talk about that. Because it went on to talk about how so many people argue and, get to a really bad place about money.
Well, it is one of the toughest topics. I'm still confused. So they're married, but they don't merge their funds.
Correct.
But I think that's like a unique. That's not a common thing.
Well, that was my point. Is this is an email that the Zoe Report puts out, which goes to hundreds of thousands of people that are reading this and thinking that that's advice that, is common, and it's not. And all that does is set you up for divorce. I mean, why bother getting married if you haven't made a full commitment to each other? So that really disturbed me. And the second author in this article wasn't married, but had been in a relationship for almost 4 years, and they are long distance. And so, she hit a good point in that a lot of times it's the little things that you do for each other. But my point is, I was so disappointed in the Zoe Report putting out an article like that, written by two people who really didn't have the right information and maybe just not enough experience to put an article on how to keep the sizzle in your marriage. So,
well, for one, it makes you feel any better. I've never even heard of the Zoe Report. What is it?
It's Rachel Zoe is an editor. Has a format, a magazine, and an online.
So you think that some young people may see it and think that's what they need to do?
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
I think they might read it, and you only know what you know, right? And so, I know with Jeffrey and I, we moved in together and immediately merged our funds. It didn't matter what he made or what I made. It didn't matter if we had loans or if we didn't. It didn't matter if we had trust funds or we didn't. None of that mattered. What was important to us,
I wish we had trust
is
funds,
that we were so excited to start the journey together as an us instead of a you and a me.
Well, I think it shouldn't have anything to do about finances. And
Exactly.
you want to, I guess your point is you want to combine things, finances included, but everything you do. I mean, you guys see us doing these videos, and those of you that know us, we spend a lot of time together, both in business and travel and pleasure and everything else. But yeah, that's a commitment. We best friends first. I think that's the key advice I'd give to anybody and anybody I'm talking to. Are you best friends? You know, if someone's talking about getting married.
Right.
That's the piece that's key.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, this article also talked about, making sure that you keep your friendships and your relationships, outside of the marriage, and not feeling like you have to ask permission if you want to go off and do something with another group of people. Now, to me, it's not about asking permission. You and I would always invite the other person.
Right.
I would want you involved in that because you're the most important person in my life.
Well, thank you. But and everybody's different. I guess
Sure.
Our advice would be, if you're gonna hook up with someone for life, it better be someone you want to hang out with. And if you've got things going on with other groups of people, you include that significant other.
Exactly. Always invite them. They don't always have to go, but to just make a plan or to just not come home and show up later and say, oh, well, I was going out with so-and-so. I don't need to clear that with you or run it by you or let you know. I mean, that just doesn't set you up for good communication. And it brings me to the point that one of the most important things in a marriage or any relationship, communication. You need to talk all the time. Finances and money should never be an issue if you're able to discuss everything and come to decisions together. I can honestly say you and I, in 28 years, have never had a fight over money.
I don't think so.
Ever. We've had plenty of fights, but never over money. And the only other thing
Well, you just took it all.
No, I just I was always about sharing.
I'm just
no,
kidding.
I know you are. I was always about sharing everything from day one. I mean, that's just my take on marriage.
Yeah.
And it's worked really
It's a
well
great
for
point,
us.
and
Exactly.
it works well.
And there's just no option of divorce. We never went in with that option. And, I love, on our wedding day, my dad sat down to have a cocktail with Jeffrey. We had an evening wedding before the wedding and said, there's only one way out of this marriage, and it's in a box. So you better tell me right now before the ceremony, are you in or are you out, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So
I was in. I didn't need that. I knew exactly what
All
my
in.
plan was.
right, and it's so important to go into it like that. Honestly, if you go into it and keep everything separate, somewhere in the back of your mind, you have it that, well, if it doesn't work out. That was never an option. It should never be an option. It should never be a topic of discussion. And if that is, then don't get into the marriage. It's just not the right timing for you or the right person, or something's not right about it. So there's my take. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Any questions, I'd love to answer them. Any other additional info on that?
Yeah, that's it. I think you're
right.
pretty clear.
Excellent. Wishing you great health, abundant happiness, and outrageous love from Copper Mountain.
I'll see you guys.